Jin-seok lived alone in a small apartment on the edge of Seoul. His life was quiet, predictable, and filled with gadgets. He spent most of his days tinkering with machines, trying to invent something groundbreaking that would change the world, or at least make him famous. The walls of his apartment were lined with shelves stacked high with tools, wires, and half-finished projects. A single window let in weak sunlight, but Jin-seok didn't mind. He preferred the company of machines to people anyway. One morning, as he sat hunched over his workbench, Jin-seok received an alert on his tablet. The delivery he had been waiting for weeks was finally arriving today. It wasn't just any delivery. It was the latest AI-powered assistant robot, designed to think, learn, and adapt faster than anything else on the market. For Jin-seok, this machine represented endless possibilities. With its help, he could finish his biggest project yet, a self-sustaining energy generator capable of powering entire cities. Excited, Jin-seok cleaned up his workspace and prepared for the delivery. When the doorbell rang, he rushed to answer it, expecting a bulky package wrapped in protective foam. Instead, when he opened the door, he froze. Standing before him was not a machine, but a girl. She looked human enough, though there was something strange about her. Her eyes shimmered faintly, like stars caught in glass, and her skin glowed softly under the hallway lights. "Hello," she said, smiling warmly. "I am Hyejin." Jin-seok blinked, unsure if he was dreaming. What are you doing here?" "Where's my delivery?" Hyejin tilted her head slightly as if puzzled by his question. "I am your delivery." "You ordered me." No, Jin-seok stammered, shaking his head. "I ordered a robot. An AI assistant, not—" He gestured vaguely at her. "Not a person." "I am not a person," Hyejin replied calmly. "I am from Zik 742, a planet far beyond your solar system. Our records show you were chosen for this assignment based on compatibility metrics. We belong together." Jin-seok stared at her, speechless. This had to be some kind of prank or maybe a mistake. "Look, I don't know who sent you or why, but you've got the wrong guy. I didn't sign up for whatever this is." He pointed back inside his apartment. "And besides, I live alone. I don't need anyone else around." Hyejin's expression didn't change. If anything, she seemed more determined. "It is not optional," she said firmly. "The bond between us has already begun. Sending me away would disrupt the balance." "The balance?" Jin-seok repeated, incredulous. "What are you even talking about?" "Balance of what?" Before Hyejin could respond, a low hum filled the air. Both turned toward the source, a small device attached to her wristband. It pulsed with light, projecting holographic symbols into the space between them. Jin-seok recognized some of the patterns. They resembled equations used in quantum physics, but others were completely alien. "This confirms our connection," Hyejin explained, pointing to the symbols. "Your genetic code matches ours. That is why I am here." Jin-seok rubbed his temples, feeling a headache coming on. None of this made sense. Aliens, genetic codes, bonds. It sounded like something out of a bad sci-fi movie. Still, he couldn't deny the evidence right in front of him. Hyejin wasn't exactly normal, and the technology she carried was far beyond anything humans had developed. "Okay, fine," he said reluctantly. "Let's say I believe you. What happens now?" "We stay together," Hyejin said simply. "You will learn about my world and I will learn about yours. Together we will fulfill our purpose." And what purpose is that?" Jin-seok asked, crossing his arms. She hesitated, then smiled again. "That will become clear in time." Despite his skepticism, Jin-seok found himself letting her in. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the nagging feeling that she wasn't dangerous. Either way, he figured he could figure things out later. After all, how much trouble could one alien girl cause? Over the next few hours, Jin-seok tried to get answers, bombarding Hyejin with questions about her planet, her mission, and the so-called bond they supposedly shared. But she remained frustratingly vague, offering only cryptic responses. When he pressed her too hard, she would deflect by asking about Earth instead. "It is fascinating," she said, holding up a cup of instant coffee. "This drink is bitter but energizing. Do all humans consume it?" Jin-seok sighed. "Yeah, pretty much. Though I prefer tea myself." Hyejin nodded thoughtfully, taking another sip. "Tea is also good. I think I like it better." Her enthusiasm was oddly endearing, and Jin-seok found himself softening toward her. She wasn't pushy or demanding, just curious about everything. By evening, she had explored every corner of his apartment. marveling at mundane objects like the refrigerator, the TV, and even the shower head. "You have so many conveniences here," she remarked. "On Zik 742, we rely more on natural resources. Technology is advanced, but it blends with nature." "That sounds nice," Jin Seok admitted. "Here, everything feels artificial, like we're losing touch with reality." Hyojin studied him closely. "Perhaps that is why you were chosen, to remind others of what truly matters." Jin Seok laughed nervously. "Me, remind people of stuff? I'm just a guy who likes building things. I'm not exactly a philosopher." "But you are more than that," Hyojin insisted. "You create solutions. You dream of a better future. That is important." For the first time in years, Jin Seok felt a flicker of pride. No one had ever spoken to him like that before, not even his parents, who always dismissed his inventions as useless hobbies. Maybe Hyojin saw something in him that others missed. As night fell, Jin Seok set up a makeshift bed for Hyojin on the couch. She thanked him politely, then curled up under the blanket, falling asleep almost instantly. Watching her, Jin Seok couldn't shake the feeling that his life had changed forever. Whether it was for better or worse, he didn't know yet. But one thing was certain: Hyojin wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. The next morning, Jin Seok woke up to the smell of something burning. He bolted out of bed, heart racing, and ran into the kitchen. There he found Hyojin standing over the stove, poking at a charred mess in a frying pan with a spatula. Smoke filled the air, and the fire alarm started screeching loudly. "What are you doing?" Jin Seok shouted, waving his hands to clear the smoke as he turned off the stove. "I was making breakfast," Hyojin said innocently, holding up the blackened lump. "It is called toast, and that's not toast," Jin Seok exclaimed, grabbing the pan and dumping its contents into the trash. "Toast doesn't look like that. You're supposed to put bread in the toaster, not on the stove." Hyojin frowned, looking disappointed. "I thought humans cooked everything on the stove." "I saw you do it yesterday." Jin Seok sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Okay, lesson 1. Not all food goes on the stove. Let me show you how to use the toaster." He pulled out a loaf of bread and demonstrated, explaining each step carefully. Hyojin watched intently, nodding along. When the toast popped up a few minutes later, she clapped her hands excitedly. "It worked," she said, grinning. "Can I try?" "Sure," Jin Seok replied, stepping aside. "Just don't burn the apartment down." As Hyojin experimented with the toaster, Jin Seok couldn't help but smile. Despite her mistakes, there was something endearing about her eagerness to learn. Over the next few days, she continued exploring Earth customs, asking endless questions about everything from clothing to transportation. Her curiosity often led to humorous misunderstandings, like when she mistook a vacuum cleaner for a pet, or tried to eat a bar of soap thinking it was candy. But Jin Seok found himself enjoying her company more than he expected. One afternoon, while working on a new invention in his workshop, Jin Seok noticed something strange. Every time Hyojin walked by, small objects nearby would move slightly. Tools would shift on the table, papers would flutter, and once, a screwdriver even floated off the counter before dropping back down. At first he thought it was just his imagination, but the incidents kept happening. "Hyojin," he said finally, turning to face her. "What's going on? Why do things keep moving around you?" She looked surprised, then guilty. "Oh, I forgot to mention. My presence affects matter sometimes. It is a side effect of my energy field." "Energy field?" Jin Seok repeated, raising an eyebrow. "You mean like telekinesis?" "Yes," Hyojin admitted. "But it only happens when I am emotional or distracted. On Zik 742, we control it better because our environment is designed for it. Here it is harder." Jin Seok stared at her, processing this new information. "So you're saying you can move stuff with your mind?" "In a way," she said sheepishly. "But it is not always under my control." "Well, that explains a lot," Jin Seok muttered, glancing at the floating screwdriver again. "Does anything else weird happen because of you?" Hyojin hesitated, then nodded. "Sometimes plants grow faster near me, and lights flicker if I get upset." Jin Seok groaned. "Great. So now I have to worry about glowing aliens and random plant explosions too." Despite his frustration, he couldn't stay mad at her. Instead, he decided to run some tests, hoping to understand her abilities better. Using sensors and equipment from his workshop, he measured changes in temperature, electromagnetic fields, and other variables whenever Hyojin used her powers. To his amazement, the readings were off the charts. Her energy levels far exceeded anything human or even machine could produce. "This is incredible," Jin Seok murmured, staring at the data. "If I could harness this kind of power—" "You cannot," Hyejin interrupted sharply. "My energy is tied to my life force. Taking it would harm me." Jin Seok blinked, realizing how selfish his thoughts had been. "Right, sorry, I wasn't thinking." "It is okay," she said softly. "I know you mean well. Just remember, we are partners, not experiments." Her words struck a chord, and Jin Seok resolved to treat her with more respect. From then on, he focused on helping her adapt rather than exploiting her abilities. Together, they worked on controlling her energy field, practicing meditation techniques and breathing exercises Hyejin claimed were common on her planet. As days turned into weeks, their bond deepened. Jin Seok discovered that Hyejin had a knack for problem-solving, often suggesting creative solutions to technical challenges he faced. In return, he taught her about Earth's history, culture, and values. They spent hours talking late into the night, sharing stories and dreams, but not everything was smooth sailing. One evening, while sorting through the packaging materials from Hyejin's arrival, Jin Seok stumbled upon something unusual. Hidden beneath layers of protective foam was a small chip embedded with encrypted data. Intrigued, he inserted it into his computer and began decoding the information. What he found shocked him. The files contained detailed records of interstellar experiments conducted by a powerful corporation known as Nexus Corp. According to the documents, Hyejin's arrival wasn't accidental. It was part of a larger project aimed at testing cross-species compatibility. Scientists believed that bonding humans with alien entities could lead to stronger emotional connections across galaxies, potentially uniting warring civilizations. Jin Seok's blood ran cold as he read further. The experiments weren't voluntary. Participants were chosen without consent, manipulated through genetic engineering and psychological conditioning. Worse still, the files hinted at dangerous side effects, including mental instability and physical deterioration. "Jin Seok?" Hyejin's voice broke his concentration. She stood in the doorway, concern etched on her face. "What is wrong?" He hesitated, unsure how much to tell her. Finally, he handed her the tablet. "Take a look at this." Hyejin scanned the documents, her expression growing darker with each passing second. This is why I am here," she whispered. "They lied to me. They told me the bond was natural, destined, but it was forced." Jin Seok placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to believe it either." Hyejin shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. Why would they do this? What gives them the right to play with lives like this? "I don't know," Jin Seok admitted. "But we'll figure it out together. Whatever happens, I've got your back." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Hyejin wiped her tears and straightened her posture. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for telling me the truth." That night, as they sat side by side in silence, Jin Seok realized something important. Hyejin wasn't just an alien visitor anymore. She was a friend, a partner, and maybe, just maybe, someone he could trust completely. The discovery of Nexus Corp's experiments weighed heavily on Jin Seok and Hyejin. For days, they barely spoke about anything else. The truth had shaken them both. Hyejin felt betrayed by her own people, while Jin Seok struggled with guilt for unknowingly becoming part of something so unethical. But as much as the revelation hurt, it also brought them closer. They realized they needed each other now more than ever. One morning, as Jin Seok sipped his tea at the kitchen table, Hyejin joined him, looking unusually serious. "We cannot ignore this," she said firmly. "If Nexus Corp is doing this to others, we must stop them." Jin Seok nodded slowly. "I agree, but how? We're just two people against a massive corporation. They probably have armies of lawyers, scientists, and security teams protecting their secrets." "We start small," Hyejin replied. "Find proof that exposes their actions. Share it with the world. People deserve to know the truth." Her determination inspired Jin Seok. He set aside his doubts and focused on what they could do. Together, they began analyzing the encrypted files further, piecing together fragments of information. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became that Nexus Corp wasn't acting alone. Governments across multiple planets were involved, funding the experiments in exchange for promises of technological advancements. "They think they're helping," Hyejin muttered bitterly one evening. "But all they're doing is causing pain." Jin Seok placed a hand over hers. "Not everyone thinks like that. Some people will listen if we show them the evidence." Their investigation took them deeper into the dark web, where whispers of Nexus Corp's activities circulated among hackers and whistleblowers. Jin-seok used his skills to navigate hidden forums, searching for allies who might help expose the truth. Meanwhile, Hyojin tapped into her alien abilities, using her heightened senses to detect patterns in the data streams that no human could see. One night, while working late, Jin-seok noticed something odd. A faint buzzing sound filled the room, growing louder by the second. Before he could react, the lights flickered violently and the computer screen went black. Alarmed, he turned to Hee-jin, whose eyes were glowing brighter than usual. "They are here," she whispered, standing up quickly. "Who?" Jin-seok asked, heart pounding. Before she could answer, the front door burst open. Armed men in black uniforms stormed inside, shouting orders. Jin-seok froze, but Hee-jin acted instantly. With a wave of her hand, she sent a surge of energy through the room, knocking the intruders off their feet. Sparks flew from their weapons as they short-circuited. "Run!" Hee-jin yelled, grabbing Jin-seok's arm. They bolted out the back door, sprinting down the narrow alleyways of Seoul. Behind them, shouts echoed as the men regrouped and gave chase. Jin-seok's mind raced. How had Nexus Corp found them? Had someone tracked their online activity? Or was it Hee-jin's energy field giving away their location? "We can't keep running forever," Jin-seok panted as they ducked into an abandoned building. "I know," Hee-jin said grimly, "but we cannot let them catch us either." Inside the crumbling structure, they hid behind piles of debris, catching their breath. Jin-seok glanced around nervously. "What now?" Hee-jin closed her eyes, concentrating. After a moment, she opened them again, her expression resolute. "There is a way. My people implanted a failsafe in me, a signal I can activate to contact my home planet. If I call for help, they will send a ship to retrieve us." Jin-seok frowned. "Will they believe you? Won't they side with Nexus Corp?" "They won't," Hee-jin assured him. "Not all of my kind support these experiments. Some fight against them. If I reach the right people, they will help." Without waiting for his response, she pressed her fingers to her temple, focusing intently. A soft hum filled the air, vibrating through the walls. Jin-seok watched in awe as a faint blue light enveloped her body, pulsating rhythmically. "How long will it take?" he asked quietly. "A few hours," Hee-jin replied. "Maybe less. But we must stay hidden until then." Just as she finished speaking, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. The men had found their trail. Hee-jin grabbed Jin-seok's hand, pulling him toward a narrow staircase leading to the roof. They climbed quickly, emerging onto the flat surface under the pale glow of the moon. From above, they could see the city stretching endlessly, its neon lights casting colorful reflections on the clouds. For a brief moment, Jin-seok forgot their danger and marveled at the view. Then reality snapped back as shouts rose from below. The men were closing in. Hee-jin stepped forward, raising her arms. Her energy field expanded, creating a shimmering barrier around them. "Stay behind me," she instructed. Jin-seok obeyed, watching as the armed men reached the rooftop. They hesitated, wary of the glowing shield. One of them shouted something into a device, likely calling for reinforcements. Others aimed their weapons, firing beams of light that bounced harmlessly off the barrier. "You're wasting your time," Hee-jin called out. "You cannot break through," the leader sneered. "We don't need to. You'll tire eventually. And when you do, we'll take you both." Jin-seok clenched his fists, anger bubbling inside him. These people didn't care about ethics or morality, they only cared about power. He glanced at Hee-jin, whose face remained calm despite the chaos. Her strength amazed him. Minutes dragged on, the standoff growing tenser with each passing second. Just when Jin-seok thought they wouldn't make it, a low rumble shook the ground. Above them, the sky lit up with a brilliant flash of light. A sleek silver spacecraft descended rapidly, hovering just above the rooftop. "It's here," Hee-jin said, relief washing over her features. The armed men scrambled backward, clearly unprepared for this turn of events. Without hesitation, Hee-jin grabbed Jin-seok's hand and pulled him toward the ship. A beam of light enveloped them, lifting them off the ground and into the vessel. Once inside, the doors sealed shut and the ship ascended smoothly. Jin-seok collapsed onto a seat, breathing heavily. Did we actually escape?" Hee-jin nodded, smiling faintly. "For now, but this is only the beginning." As the ship soared through the atmosphere, leaving Earth behind, Jin-seok stared out the window at the shrinking blue planet. He felt a mix of fear and excitement. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. His life would never be the same again. The spacecraft hummed softly as it traveled through the vastness of space. Inside, Jin-seok sat quietly, staring out the window at the endless sea of stars. His mind was racing with questions. Where were they going? Who would meet them when they arrived? And most importantly, could they really trust Hyejin's people? Hyejin stood nearby, her hands clasped tightly together. She glanced at Jin-seok occasionally, sensing his unease. Finally, she broke the silence. Are you okay? She asked gently. Jin-seok looked up, forcing a smile. Yeah, I'm fine, just processing everything. I understand, Hyejin said, sitting beside him. This must be overwhelming for you. It is, he admitted. I mean, I've dreamed about space my whole life, but not like this. Not running from bad guys and relying on alien technology to survive. Hyejin nodded sympathetically. You are brave to come with me. Many humans would have stayed behind even if it meant danger. Jin-seok chuckled dryly. What choice did I have? You're stuck with me now. Her lips curved into a small smile. And you are stuck with me, too. For a moment, they shared a look of understanding. Despite everything, their bond had grown stronger. They weren't just allies anymore. They were friends, partners in this strange journey. As hours passed, the ship approached its destination, a massive space station orbiting a distant planet. The structure gleamed under the light of a nearby star, its metallic surface reflecting streaks of color. Hyejin explained that it served as a neutral zone where representatives from various species gathered to discuss interstellar matters. We'll find allies here, she said confidently. People who oppose Nexus Corp and want to stop their experiments. Jin-seok hoped she was right. When the ship docked, they disembarked cautiously, stepping into a bustling corridor filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some walked on two legs, others floated, and a few communicated through flashes of light or sound waves. It was overwhelming yet fascinating. Guided by Hyejin, they made their way to a large chamber where a council meeting was taking place. The room was circular, with holographic screens displaying data and images from different worlds. At the center stood a group of leaders, each representing their respective species. Hyejin approached them boldly, introducing herself and explaining their situation. These humans are victims of Nexus Corp's greed, she declared, gesturing toward Jin-seok. They manipulate lives for profit, disregarding ethics and morality. One of the leaders, an elder with shimmering blue skin, spoke up. We have heard rumors of such activities, but proof has been elusive. Do you have evidence? Hyejin nodded, pulling out the encrypted files Jin-seok had decoded earlier. Here is everything you need. Records of experiments, participant lists, financial transactions. It proves Nexus Corp's involvement beyond doubt. The council members examined the data carefully, murmuring among themselves. After a tense discussion, the elder turned back to Hyejin. If this information is true, it changes everything. But we require more than documents. We need witnesses willing to testify. Jin-seok stepped forward hesitantly. I'll do it, he said firmly. I've seen what they're capable of. I won't let them get away with it. Hyejin placed a hand on his shoulder, proud of his courage. Together, they agreed to work with the council to expose Nexus Corp's crimes. Over the next few days, preparations began for a public trial. Representatives from Earth and other planets were invited to attend, ensuring maximum exposure. Meanwhile, Jin-seok and Hyejin spent time exploring the space station, learning about its culture and technology. They discovered that many species valued cooperation and harmony, concepts foreign to the ruthless tactics of corporations like Nexus Corp. During one of their walks, Jin-seok noticed something unusual. Whenever he touched Hyejin's hand, he felt a strange warmth spreading through his body. At first, he dismissed it as imagination, but the sensation grew stronger over time. Do you feel that too? He asked her one evening as they rested in their quarters. She nodded, her expression thoughtful. It is the bond growing stronger. Our connection is no longer just genetic, it is emotional. What does that mean? Jin-seok asked, curious. It means we are becoming one, Hyejin replied softly. Not physically, but spiritually. Your thoughts and feelings resonate with mine, and vice versa. Jin-seok wasn't sure how to process this revelation. Part of him wanted to pull away, fearing the unknown. But another part, the part that had grown fond of Hyejin, welcomed the idea. He realized he cared about her deeply, perhaps more than he'd ever cared about anyone before. On the day of the trial, the courtroom was packed with spectators from across the galaxy. Cameras captured every moment as Jin Seok and Hye-jin presented their case. They shared personal stories, displayed evidence, and answered tough questions from skeptical judges. By the end, the atmosphere shifted noticeably. Murmurs of outrage spread through the crowd as the truth sank in. When the verdict came, it was unanimous. Nexus Corp's operations would be shut down immediately, and those responsible held accountable. Cheers erupted throughout the room, celebrating justice served. Afterward, Jin Seok and Hye-jin returned to their quarters, exhausted but relieved. As they sat together watching the stars outside, Hye-jin spoke quietly. "Thank you for standing by me. I couldn't have done this without you." "You stood by me too," Jin Seok replied, smiling. "We make a good team." There was a pause, then Hye-jin added, "Now that this is over, what will you do? Will you return to Earth?" Jin Seok thought about it. Going home sounded appealing, but leaving Hye-jin didn't feel right either. "I don't know," he admitted. "What about you? What happens next for you?" Hye-jin hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I have a choice to make. Stay with you or go back to my planet. Either way, I will miss you." Her words struck a chord. For the first time, Jin Seok considered the possibility of staying with her. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. "Maybe we don't have to decide right away," he suggested. "Let's figure it out together." Hye-jin smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Together," she echoed. As they gazed at the stars, surrounded by hope and uncertainty, Jin Seok knew one thing for certain. Their journey was far from over. The days following the trial were a whirlwind of activity. News of Nexus Corp's downfall spread across galaxies, sparking outrage and calls for reform. Governments scrambled to investigate their ties to the corporation, while activists rallied to ensure such abuses of power would never happen again. Jin Seok and Hye-jin became unlikely symbols of hope, a human and an alien standing together against injustice. Despite the chaos, Jin Seok found himself reflecting on what came next. The space station was safe for now, but it wasn't home. Earth felt distant, almost foreign after everything he'd experienced. And yet leaving Hye-jin behind seemed impossible. She had become more than just a companion. She was family. One evening, as they walked along a glass corridor overlooking the stars, Hye-jin finally voiced the question that had been lingering between them. "What will you choose, Jin Seok? Will you stay with me, or will you return to your world?" Jin Seok stopped, turning to face her. "I've thought about it a lot," he admitted. "Earth is where I grew up, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. Not without you." Hye-jin's eyes softened, shimmering faintly like they always did when she was moved. "You would give up your planet for me?" "It's not giving up," Jin Seok replied. "It's choosing something new, something better." Her lips curved into a small smile. "Then come with me. My planet may be different from yours, but there is beauty there too. You could help us rebuild trust with humans and others, show them that bonds like ours are worth protecting." Jin Seok nodded slowly, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Okay, let's do it." With their decision made, they prepared for the journey to Zix 742. Before departing, they visited the council one last time to thank them for their support. The elder with shimmering blue skin offered parting words of wisdom. "Change begins with courage," he said. "Yours has inspired many. Carry that spirit wherever you go." As the spacecraft lifted off, Jin Seok watched the space station shrink into the distance. He felt a pang of sadness but also anticipation. This was a fresh start, for both of them. The trip to Zix 742 took several days, during which Jin Seok learned more about Hye-jin's culture. She described lush forests filled with bioluminescent plants, cities built harmoniously with nature, and traditions centered around unity and connection. Her stories painted a picture of a peaceful world, though not without its challenges. When they arrived, Jin Seok stepped onto alien soil for the first time. The air smelled sweet, tinged with floral scents, and the sky glowed with hues of purple and gold. Around him, towering trees swayed gently, their leaves sparkling like diamonds. It was breathtaking. Hye-jin led him through a winding path toward her village, explaining how her people lived in balance with their environment. They relied on renewable energy sources and practiced sustainable farming, ensuring minimal impact on the ecosystem. Jin Seok marveled at the simplicity and elegance of it all. At the village center, a group of aliens gathered to welcome them. Some greeted Hye-jin warmly, embracing her like a long-lost friend. Others studied Jin Seok curiously, whispering among themselves. Though nervous, he reminded himself that fear wouldn't get him anywhere. Smiling, he extended his hand in greeting. Over time, Jin Seok adapted to life on Zik 742. He worked alongside He-Jin's people, sharing knowledge about Earth's technology while learning their methods of innovation. Together, they developed systems that combined the best of both worlds, creating solutions that benefited everyone. But it wasn't just work that kept Jin Seok busy. His bond with He-Jin continued to deepen, evolving into something neither of them had expected. One night as they sat by a glowing river under the starlit sky, He-Jin spoke softly. "Do you ever wonder why we were chosen for this? Why our paths crossed?" Jin Seok looked at her, thinking carefully before answering. "Maybe it wasn't random. Maybe we were meant to show others that differences don't have to divide us. That love, real love, can bridge any gap." He-Jin smiled, leaning closer. "That sounds like something my elders would say." "Well, maybe they're on to something," Jin Seok teased, earning a laugh from her. As weeks turned into months, Jin Seok realized he'd found something he hadn't known he was searching for: purpose. On Earth, he'd felt lost, unsure of his place in the world. Here, surrounded by people who valued cooperation and kindness, he felt whole. One day, He-Jin approached him with a proposal. "There is a festival coming soon," she explained. "A celebration of unity and renewal. Would you like to attend with me?" "Of course," Jin Seok replied eagerly. "What happens at the festival?" "We share stories, music, and food," He-Jin said. "And we honor those who strengthen our connections with other species." Jin Seok raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying I'll be honored?" She grinned mischievously. "Perhaps." When the festival arrived, the village transformed into a vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds. Lights hung from tree branches, casting soft glows over the crowd. Music played, blending melodies from countless worlds. Jin Seok wandered through the festivities, marveling at the diversity around him. At the heart of the celebration stood a stage, where leaders addressed the gathering. When it was He-Jin's turn to speak, she stepped forward, holding Jin Seok's hand. "Today we celebrate not only unity but also courage," she began. "Courage to embrace change, to trust strangers, and to build bridges instead of walls. My friend Jin Seok embodies these values. Without him, our fight against Nexus Corp might have failed, but together we proved that hope can overcome greed." The crowd erupted into applause, cheering for Jin Seok. He blushed, unused to being the center of attention, but He-Jin squeezed his hand reassuringly. "You deserve this," she whispered. Later that night, as fireworks lit up the sky, Jin Seok and He-Jin stood side by side, watching the display in silence. Finally, Jin Seok spoke. "Do you think we've done enough?" "Changed enough?" He-Jin shook her head. "Change is never ending, but every step forward matters. Every bond formed brings us closer to peace." Jin Seok nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment wash over him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they could face them together. As dawn broke over Zik 742, painting the horizon in shades of pink and orange, Jin Seok felt grateful, not just for the adventures he'd had, but for the ones still to come. With He-Jin by his side, he believed anything was possible. And so, their story continued, a tale of two souls from different worlds united by love, courage, and the unshakable belief that even in the vastness of the universe, no one is truly alone.